Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You. Today I just wanted to talk about the importance of doing your homework. And so as my videos get more viewership and people start seeing the group or they hear about it, they come in and they start listening to me and they go, that's kind of interesting. But they really don't have a base of knowledge in Dr. Sarno, his work. They haven't read any of the newer books by Steve Ozanich, Nicole Sachs, Howard Schubner, David Hanscom, David Schechter. You know, there's a lot of newer books since Sarno, and they're all excellent. They all kind of fill in the gaps. They kind of say a lot of the same things differently. But if you're brand new to this and you don't know who Dr. Sarno is, and you haven't read any of his books, I'm going to really stress that you need to do that. Look, I can teach you the basics of what he called TMS, what I'm now referring to as stress illness. That's what Dr. David Clark talks about in his book. Look, as much as I can share with you about this stuff, and I do have a video that kind of walks you through what's going on, how pain starts, how it becomes chronic. I say it slightly differently than Dr. Sarno did. It's still really important to go back and read Dr. Sarno's books. He explains it in such a confident, powerful way, and the examples he uses are fantastic, and just what you're getting there is decades, literally decades, of his firsthand experience with this stuff and helping patients in real time. From my standpoint, I think I've got a unique voice in this TMS or mind-body world. I explain things a little bit differently. I try to boil it down, kind of simplify what Dr. Sarno has said. But it doesn't take away from the need or the importance of going back and reading at least one of his books. The book I like the best is The Mind-Body Prescription, because it's not just back pain. Because healing back pain, if you don't have back pain and you got something else, then you kind of have to do the translation. In The Mind-Body Prescription, it's kind of done for you and is done in a better way. So if you haven't done that homework, you need to. If you haven't done a self-assessment, you need to. Part of reading his books is really self-assessment, because you will get a first-hand take, a first-hand look at, wow, he's describing me. I'm on that page, I'm on that page, I'm on that page, and all of a sudden you connect the dots and say, this is what's going on with me. So reading the book books is really important. There's another TMS group here on Facebook that literally says, we don't want to answer any of your questions until you've read the books. Primarily because, you know, asking somebody a question on Facebook and saying, can you tell me what this is not going to do the topic any justice. You're doing yourself a disservice by not doing your own homework here. It's really important for you to learn the basics about TMS, how Dr. Sarno figured this stuff out. And while he figured this stuff out, he's not the be-all end-all. There are other doctors out there who are kind of bringing it to the 20th century, 21st century. Schubner, Schechter, Clark, Hanscom, these guys are doing great work. So reading some of their books is also useful. I do really like Dr. Schubner. He wrote the book Unlearn Your Pain. The first 6 chapters are a real good technical medical explanation for what's going on. It talks about neural pathways, which is a lot of what I talk about, neuroplasticity. And then the rest of Unlearn Your Pain is his workbook, and he gets you into writing exercises and a whole series of questions to answer. It really gets you thinking psychologically, which is one of Dr. Sarno's main tenets of healing, is think psychologically, not physically. So again, if you haven't read any of Dr. Sarno's books, you really should. And I don't like that word should, because that just adds another responsibility for you. And part of the reason we are in so much trouble ourselves is because we should do this, we should do that, we should, and we do all these things because other people think we should, and that can be infuriating. So do yourself a favor. If you've not read any Dr. Sarno books, go get the Mind-Body Prescription and read that. The Divided Mind isn't so much Sarno's words. Yes, it is, but there are also other contributing authors and doctors, and so that's a little bit more of a group effort with some other doctors contributing in there. It's great work, don't get me wrong, but the Mind-Body Prescription is the book I personally like the best, but any of them will do. Even the original, Mind Over Back Pain, which is a much smaller book, Dr. Sarno's first book. It's interesting to see his progression and how he explains things and what he's figured out over the years. But if you haven't read that stuff, please do. You'll be doing yourself a huge favor, and you'll take a huge leap in your own healing, because understanding it, believing it, connecting the dots for yourself is critical. You just can't have somebody say, you have this thing called TMS, and you should feel your emotions, and then don't worry about the symptoms. That alone is not going to get you to the finish line. It may get you started, but since, as Dr. Sarno says, knowledge is a huge part of the cure, getting that knowledge is really critical. I am in the process of adding to that body of knowledge with a book of my own, with my own analogies and stories and my own personal experience and my own way of explaining these things and my own suggestions as to, how to get across the finish line and get rid of the symptoms, how to become a version 2 of yourself. And I will obviously let you guys and gals know when that is ready. Finding the book is a challenge to write, and what's interesting is, as I've been doing these daily videos for the past 6 months, my concepts and thoughts and analogies have kind of shifted or changed, and what I'm seeing is as important has kind of shifted a little bit. So I'm actually glad I didn't write the book a year ago, because by doing this and interacting with all of you and getting your feedback and hearing, yeah, this works or that's not clear to me, I'm able to refine my thoughts on all of this stuff, and the book is going to be that much better. So it may be a procrastination excuse for me to say that I'm taking my time with it to make sure I get it as good as I can. Maybe that's just my way of justifying the fact that I'm struggling to get it done. But I also think the book is going to be that much better for having gone through the work and the changes in the metamorphosis of thought and in this creation process. So back to the original point. It's really important for you to get that base of knowledge of Dr. Sarno's directly from the horse's mouth. Is he 100% right on everything? The purists will say yes. Some people say, Dr. Sarno, don't question him. Don't ever question him. And, I'm not on that end of the spectrum, but I do have a lot of respect for what he discovered, and do believe that the foundational knowledge that he lays out there for all of us, for the cost of a book, I think it's about $15 if you can get the Mind-Body Prescription, maybe 18 on Amazon. Go get it. And it's well worth your time. It's well worth your energy. It's well worth listening to, and well worth listening to with an open mind, and start to connect the dots as to how does this, what he's describing, apply to you and your situation. So go get the book if you haven't. If you've read several of Sarno's books, and you've read all of the other books that I mentioned and from the other authors that I've mentioned, reading is not what it takes to get better, right? We don't get better by reading books. That gives us the knowledge, and there's several other aspects of healing that are really critical. Doing the assessment, that's the other part. Knowledge, assessment. What else is key? Mindset, right? And then actually doing the emotional feeling work. And part of that feeling work is deciding that emotions are safe and that you can feel them and it doesn't make you a bad person or damaged or broken or weak or crazy, right? So there's a lot of aspects here. Knowledge is the first step. Get the knowledge. Give yourself that gift of learning. Read Sarno. Read some of the others, but don't assume that reading is all you have to do. And yes, Sarno has even said some people read the book and they got better. The knowledge was enough of a cure that they got better. Don't assume that's you, right? Book cures are rare, and when a book cure happens, inevitably some other kind of symptom imperative, he calls it, kind of shows up somewhere else, and we end up still in the same trouble, but with something else hurting instead of the back, or whatever. So do the homework. Give yourself that gift, and once you've done so, move on to the next step, which is the self-assessment. In his books, he gives you a lot of ways to connect the dots. If you want a self-assessment that I've put together, go to painfreeyou.com, enter your email, download the self-assessment, and there I've given you a 12-page self-assessment that goes everything from what does it mean about you if you feel certain emotions, all the way through pain characteristics, personality types, a pain history, all that kind of stuff. And those are the two things that I say are really laying the groundwork for yourself. So if you're pretty new to this stuff, you got to do that. Read a Sarno book, do the self-assessment, and from there you can start working on getting your mindset right. And that's what a lot of these videos are all about that I share, as well as doing the emotional work, and I also talk a lot about that. So let me know what you think. If you haven't done it, if you haven't read a book, raise your hand. Say, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to go get one. I'm going to order on Amazon. I hope a bunch of you folks go out and get these books if you haven't read anything by Sarno yet. Anyway, thank you for listening. I will see you guys in the next video. We'll talk soon.